You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance and my fellow progressive patriots. We are live right here, Friday, October 19th. I'm Dean Obeidallah. Hope to be your MBFF. I'm on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah, or you can watch the monologue if you so choose, now live or at any time over the weekend at facebook.com/Dean of Radio, or drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. So, my friends, I cannot believe it. We are down to 18 days. 18 days to the most important election of our lives. Look, it's this simple. If you want a Congress that's going to fight for your health coverage and not try to repeal and replace it with nothing, then vote Democratic on November 6th. Doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. If you want health care for you and your family, you know the one party that's going to help you. The party that created the ACA. The party that created the idea of pre-existing medical conditions being covered. The party that gave you Medicare and Medicaid. The party that gave you Social Security. It was one party. Did all of that. Democratic Party. One party has demonized all of those things as socialism, all the way back to Social Security with FDR, to Medicaid and Medicare, all of it socialism, ACA, socialism, and then they become wildly popular programs, and they don't know what to do. So, folks, you have a nice choice. By the way, I don't know about you, I'm on social media nonstop, but I can see on social media the panic that is creeping into the Trumpers, and it's because, say what you will, some of them actually read the polls, and they see what's going on right now. And I mentioned it yesterday, the bump that they got from Kavanaugh a few weeks ago is now evaporated. And Senate races, which before had Republicans leading by 3 or 4, are now dead even, or the Democrats up by a point or two. It's all margin of error. But everything is in play, and they're beginning to freak. They're beginning to sweat. I can see it. They're getting testy online. They are becoming the snowflakes that I know they are, even more so. And quick thing here, and I just give poll numbers here and there to give you a sense of trends. They don't mean anything if you don't vote, but they give you a sense of what's going on in the electorate. New AP poll, and AP is a very respected poll. It's done with the University of Chicago. Came out today. Trump's approval rating is a pathetic 40% in their poll. That's not as important as this part, who strongly approve and strongly disapprove, because that emotion, strongly approve and strongly disapprove, tend to be the people who vote in elections, because they have that emotional connection. It's not a normal election year, and they come out. Strongly approve of Donald Trump right now, 21%. Strongly disapprove of Donald Trump, drum roll, 45%. 45%. There's a 24% gap of those who strongly approve to strongly disapprove. Can you say the two words with me together? Blue wave. That is how you get a wave election. That is the basis of a wave election. I am not saying it's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, polling shows this. And to give you some more historical context, and I'm just giving historical context. This is not a predictor of future results, as they say in a commercial, especially now we live in hyper-partisan times and there's gerrymandering and everything else. But on October 19, 2010, just exactly 8 years ago today, Obama's first term, he had an average approval rating of the average of all the major polls of 46%. Today, right now, Donald Trump's average approval rating of all the major polls, according to the Real Clear Politics average, is around 43%. What were the results of the 2010 midterm where President Obama had a higher approval rating? He lost 63 House seats and 6 U.S. Senate seats. 63. All we need are 23 House seats and we win, and 2 Senate seats and we win the Senate. Now, again, times are different, but it gives you a sense. And historically, in the modern era, anytime a president had below a 50% approval rating, that president would lose at least 40 House seats on average. Again, it only matters if you vote on Election Day, or now with early voting, and you make sure your friends and your family vote. But things are lining up and they're beginning to sweat on the right. Is it wrong that it brings me joy? Be honest, tell me. Am I a bad person because I have joy from that? I do. I can't help it. And it's Friday, so we need a little humor before we get some of the serious stuff that's going on. Here is Trevor Noah, and this is a great joke. Trevor Noah is increasingly getting better and going after the real serious issues. Here's a joke about voter suppression. And I've not heard any late night host talk about this. And what I love about this is Trevor Noah is introducing to younger people, because his audience skews younger, the issue of voter suppression, that the Republicans are behind it, and that their goal is to disenfranchise African Americans and people of color. Now, I love that he's doing so. Let's hear clip number one.
Isn't it interesting how every time Republicans create a voting restriction, it just so happens to disproportionately affect people of the brown? And I'm not going to lie, it's very slick. Because on the surface, it always seems legitimate, yeah? 100 years ago, the argument was nothing personal. We can't let people vote if they don't know how to read. And black people were like, but learning to read was illegal. They're like, oh, ironic. Look at that. And now today, it's like, how can we trust that it's really you if the names aren't exactly the same? And black people are like, yeah, but white people never spell my name right. Well, that's too bad, Derek. It's like, yo, it's Derek. The truth is, like, let's be honest. Let's be honest. You don't have to say who you're targeting to target someone. You just have to know which rules are likely to hit them the most, right? Like if I was trying to block white people at the voting booth, I wouldn't need to say, no white people are allowed. I'd just be like, sorry, no pumpkin spice lattes in the voting booth. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, folks. You got to go home. I'm so sorry, everybody.
And those are great jokes because he's making a fabulous point. First, that the laws that disenfranchise blacks through time, like literacy test and poll tax, and now voter ID laws, were all on their face neutral. It didn't say no black people. So Trevor is explaining that to a younger audience, and I love that he's doing that. And then here was Colbert. By the way, we have a lot of time. We're not having guests for like an hour and 15 minutes. So you're my guest for like an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we'll take a lot of calls, a lot of issues. But here's Colbert last night on the Republicans beginning to demonize Jamal Khashoggi and to help Donald Trump with the whole idea of there's nothing you have to do to the Saudis. It's very interesting. Let's hear. And he actually plays a clip of Pat Robertson in this clip. Here's clip number 2.
Trump's getting some criticism for his bold, soft-on-murder stance, but some people still have his back, including televangelist and human estate sale Pat Robertson. Robertson has spent the past few days downplaying Khashoggi's murder and prioritizing the financial benefit of siding with Saudi Arabia.
Wendy, I just don't think you've got $100 billion worth of arms sales, which is, that's one of those things. But more than that, we've got to have some Arab allies. I know it's bad, but I mean, we've had all kinds of stuff, but you don't blow up an international alliance over one person. I mean, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you for capturing the core message of Christianity. How important can one man's death be?
And it's very interesting to hear Pat Robertson say, we need Arab allies. Pat Robertson's been one of the biggest demonizers of Muslims. I've written about it. I've covered it before over the years. This is very interesting because the right has been, and people like Pat Robertson have spewed anti-Muslim bigotry for a long time, and now trying to say, hey, but we still need some Muslim friends. And it's all because of Trump, because they're in the Trump clan. It's not a cult. It's the clan of Trump. By the way, there's breaking news right now regarding Jamal Khashoggi. This is a serious part. The Saudis are now confirming that Khashoggi is dead. They've arrested 18 Saudis, and they have dismissed a top military official. So when Mike Pompeo said a few days ago when he went there, give them a few days to sort it out, I have no doubt Mike Pompeo told them what the Saudis have to do on the world stage to give plausible deniability to MBS, the Crown Prince, and this is what's happening. So Saudis are like, yeah, he's dead. And I guess we did it because they've arrested 18 Saudis. They'll probably behead them in the square to make a point, and a top military official is dismissed. So now there's no more doubt that the Saudis did it. And that's just breaking right now. It's just happened right now. Interesting, isn't it? Isn't it? And it brings us to where we're going to next here. Because Donald Trump has been for so much defending the Saudis or refusing to believe it was them. And he knew it was them. Our intelligence has no doubt we knew about it. We knew it. The Turks had audio right away. They had bugged the embassy. That's pretty clear. Rula Jabril is here, was on a few days ago, is a foreign policy expert and reads all the Middle Eastern papers. She reads Arabic fluently. And that was very clear from the reporting outside of our country. So what happens? You've got Donald Trump refusing to denounce the murder of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, a U.S. green card holder who writes for the Washington Post. And the Saudis, I think, and I think most people believe this, assume they can get away with it. First, they own Donald Trump. Since the early 1990s, we've covered it before, they've been bailing him out. Second of all, he's a strongman leader like they are, and he's called the media the enemy of the people. And I think they believe they could do anything they want with a journalist. Because last night, Donald Trump reminded us you could beat up journalists, and it's okay to Donald Trump. And this was at his rally in Montana. And he praised Congressman Greg Gianforte, who, as a reminder, in May 2017 was a special election up there in Montana. And Ben Jacobs, a reporter for The Guardian, simply wanted to ask Gianforte a question. Behind the scenes there, they're like at a sort of like, it looked like a recreational room or a, like a town meeting hall type of thing. And he's backstage with Gianforte, and he asks him a question, didn't yell at him, didn't do anything. Gianforte doesn't want to answer it, grabs him, literally body slams him, breaks the guy's glass. He's a thin guy, Ben Jacobs. Gianforte's a big guy, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is the audio of that, because Ben Jacobs had his recorder on because he was trying to ask a question on the record of Gianforte, who is a candidate for Congress. He didn't go to his house. He didn't storm into where he lives or he works. He was at a public event behind the scenes there and asked a simple question. But Gianforte had enough about answering questions of the media, because at this time, 2017, Trump's already the drumbeat of the media, is the enemy of the people. There are fake news. And here he is. And this is audio that when we hear Khashoggi, if we ever hear the audio of him being killed, it's probably similar to this, but then escalates much more. So let's hear the audio, May 2017, Greg Gianforte, Republican candidate, now a member of Congress, body slamming Ben Jacobs, a reporter at The Guardian, for simply wanting to do his job and ask a politician a question about his political views. Here's clip number 3.
We'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have the
Speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
I'm sick and tired of you guys. The last guy that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
You'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police. Can I get you guys' names?
Hey, you gotta leave.
He just body slammed me.
You gotta leave.
And what happened to Gianforte? He was charged with a crime. He pled guilty to a misdemeanor of assault in 2017 June. He apologized to Ben Jacobs. He paid a fine and completed 40 hours of community service and donated $50,000 to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Because Gianforte lost his temper, was a jerk, but then did the right thing. And he pled guilty and he apologized and he made a donation to the Committee to Protect Journalists. So this was a serious thing. You have a person running for office beating up a journalist for simply asking a question. Again, he didn't go to his house. You could hear from his tone. He was not yelling at him. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't making accusations. But Gianforte had enough of answering questions. And then last night, Donald Trump had this comment about that exchange. Let's hear clip number 4.
But Greg is smart. And by the way, never wrestle him. You understand that? Never. Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind. He's my guy. I shouldn't say this because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. So I was in Rome with a lot of the leaders from other countries, talking about all sorts of things. And I heard about it. And we endorsed Greg very early. But I had heard that he body slammed a reporter.
Listen to that cheering. He physically assaulted a reporter and his crowd is cheering. If he said he killed a reporter, do you think they'd cheer as well? I think they would. I think that's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with an angry mob that's dangerous and violent, that cheers violence. There's no doubt about it. And, we've heard this before. Listen to Donald Trump. Let's go to clip number 6.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
That's the leader of the Republican Party. Let me put it to you this way, folks. I've been writing for the Daily Beast and CNN for years. And, opinion columns once a week. And I've written political articles. I've written articles about hate groups, everything, anti-Muslim bigots. Before Donald Trump ran for office, I never got a death threat for anything I wrote. I never got threats of violence ever. Donald Trump runs for office, he gets elected, and all of a sudden I get death threats. I get threats of violence. I never thought before I could write an article and never sincerely believe someone would attack me or beat me up. But in time of Trump, I do. And especially after last night and after the Khashoggi, where he refuses to denounce the Saudis for what we're going to find out torturing Khashoggi and maybe cutting him up while he was alive. We're not sure now, but we know that he seems to be cut to bits. But here's the truth. I don't care if I'm not going to be silenced because I'm worried that Donald Trump or his supporters, his white supremacists who have threatened to kill me because I criticized Trump and criticized them, or Gavin McInnes from the Proud Boys who tried to get me fired from my show and from writing last year because I quoted Gavin McInnes and his anti-Semitic garbage, and now he's being feted by the Republicans here in New York. He's anti-Semitic, anti-woman, anti-gay, anti-Muslim, and now he's welcome to the GOP. I'm not going to be silenced. And if I get beaten up or, God forbid, killed, that's a price you've got to sacrifice for this nation, the nation I love. When my father came here, my grandparents came here for a better life, and I am indebted to this nation for accepting both of them. So if that's the price, me getting beaten up or killed, that's life. But I'm not going to be silenced. And I hope you will pledge with me that you will never be silenced by them, because that's how they win. That's what's going on. This is the stakes now. We're getting closer not to an election. I've said it for a year. November 6th is Judgment Day, and I think you see it now more clearly. Maybe I was slightly kidding when I first said it. Election Day is Judgment Day. Little by little, it became more and more serious. Now it is, we are close to truly a question of where our nation goes in the future come November 6th. If you want this to continue, if you want your children and grandchildren to read about what America was like at a different time when they had freedom of the press and freedom of religion, and that's all gone under Trump in the future, it could be, because here's the truth, folks. Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and the GOP want to make America the Saudi Arabia of North America. And let me explain what I mean by that. Twofold. One, they want no dissent, and journalists swiftly, violently responded to. That's their dream. Second, they want to use their religious text and turn it into our law, just like they use the Quran in Saudi. They want to use the Bible. Mike Pence, Donald Trump on a lesser extent, but that base of evangelicals, they want Christian Sharia law. And there's no doubt about it, that's what they want. And this is where we are. So we're at a crossroads of our nation. Will we remain the United States of America, or will we become the Saudi Arabia of North America? And this election is a big part of it. We're already screwed with the Supreme Court. They are probably going to destroy Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade, not because of public policy reasons, because that is part of Christian Sharia law to overturn that decision. If they get a chance to overturn marriage equality, they'll do the same thing. That is part of Christian Sharia law. If they can make it impossible for your insurer to cover your health insurance, contraception, that's part of Christian Sharia, to stop that as well, because to them, it's abortion inducing. Read the Bible and see where we're going. In Timothy, in the Bible, says a woman should learn in silence. That's why they have no problem with demonizing women. This is the laws they want in this country. And let's not play games. It's PCness to Donald Trump is saying I'm going to throw a reporter around. Forget political correctness. There are right-wing radical Christians in this nation who want to impose the Bible as our law, who want to silence us, people like me, for speaking out about it, others who want to speak out about it, and they will use violence or anything possible. That's what I'm worried about. I hope I'm wrong. I'm really hoping I'm wrong. But I know one big way to stop this is November 6th. It is the election of our lives. And Rory Kennedy was on last night, the daughter of the late Bobby Kennedy, who said that exact same thing. This is the most important election of our lives. She's right. So let's take calls. We have a whole over an hour to take phone calls. I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. Are you worried about this Christian Sharia law? Do you think that Donald Trump, if could get away with it, would punish, imprison, or even kill reporters like the Saudis do, or like they do, Sisi does in Egypt, or Putin does? Because I have no doubt at all. I'm not being hyperbolic. I have zero doubt that's what he would do. So let's stand together. Let's make a pledge that we stand with each other, that we will never let anyone in our group be silenced in the face of this. It's beyond bullying. Bullying is like someone on a school ground. This is the president, the GOP controls the Senate and the House. They're going to do everything they can to silence us. Let's take a break. I want to hear from you. 866-997-4748 right here on the Dean Obadala Show. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127. 127.
heard Dean's thoughts. Now it's your turn. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. This is the Dean Obadala Show
on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. By the way, so breaking news during the break here, I'm seeing more about what happened. The Saudis are saying that Khashoggi died. They were having a quarrel, in quotes, quarrel inside the consulate, and he was accidentally killed. It smells like Mike Pompeo, and we're going to find this out, although they probably won't release it. Mike Pompeo told them what to say to make it plausible. Say it was an accident. And getting back to Donald Trump last night at the rally, because some people are like, oh, it's just a joke what he was saying. For Donald Trump to joke about physically assaulting a reporter while the investigation into Khashoggi is going on, at the very same time Donald Trump is denying the Saudis were involved, it's not a coincidence. And Jim Acosta from CNN tweeted last night, the disturbing part of Trump's jokes about Gianforte was the effect on the crowd. I saw one young man in the crowd making body slam gestures. He looked at me and ran his thumb across his throat, like, you know, when you're going to say, I'm going to kill you. And he said, that's what they're seeing. The White House Correspondents Association, headed by Olivier, who Sirius XM host, said that they slammed it. They said there's no place for this whatsoever. There are jokes, and then there's jokes. Is anything a joke? Could he just joke around about, like, lynching black people? And with his base go, it's just joking. Yeah, they would. There's no doubt he would. But just saying anti-Semitic stuff and go, it's just a joke. Sure, that's fine. Because that's the base. That's what they're about. They're about violence. They're bigot, racist. All of them, no. Some of them, yes. And we see in these rally after rally. The same people who cheered when Donald Trump mocked Dr. Christine Ford. You could disagree with Dr. Christine Ford. You might not believe her. I did. But even if you didn't believe her, the idea of mocking her for laughs and ridiculing her in front of the crowd and having them mock and cheer at her and laugh at her was despicable. That was one of the most vile things. So this is where we are right now. Let's take some calls. Here is Tom from California. He's got a question about the polls or a comment about the polls. How are you, Tom?
Good. How are you?
Fine.
All right. So I know you had mentioned the polls at the beginning of your show.
Yes.
One of them was from the AP, and I forget who the other one was from.
There were different ones.
Now,
the AP one was the one I talked about the most today. But go ahead.
Okay. So through all the various polls that I've looked at throughout the years, it seems like they are primarily from large metropolitan areas.
How do you base that on? How do you know that?
Just different articles that I've read.
Like for what? Like, I hate to challenge you, but you're making a statement of fact, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to ask you. So, like, give me an example, because I've never seen that, and I love polls. And I'm not doubting polls make mistakes, Tom. Don't get me wrong. I just have never seen anyone say the sampling was over cities, not rural. So I'm just wondering where were those articles you saw? Because I've never seen that. And I'm going to tell you, I don't believe polls are all right. They have margin of errors, and they can be wrong, and we know that.
To be 100% honest with you, I don't remember.
Fair enough. So your thing is that you think that polls. Okay, go ahead. So the poll, you could always go at the methodology of polls. There's always questions about their reliability. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. And so I was going to, kind of get your intake on, let's go with the assumption that they're 50-50, metropolitan and rural.
Right.
Do you think if they actually, were 50-50, would the statistics be the same?
Because, they do it more by party ID, age, race, and they try to match it to America. The problem with the midterm elections for all these polls, they don't know who's really going to come out and vote. In the presidential year, they get a better sense that maybe around 55 to 60% of Americans are going to come out. Now they're talking to people, and they say, yeah, I'm a likely voter. That's what they ask them. Are you going to vote? Yeah. Are you registered? Yeah. Are you likely going to vote? They go, okay, here's our poll. Let's do the poll. If they turn out not to be a likely voter and not vote, the whole polls are screwed up. So midterm polls are the least reliable. But I look at the polls not for like a snapshot and relying on one. I look at them for patterns and saying, and for trends. It's really for trends. And 2 weeks ago, I saw a big trend during Kavanaugh, right after Kavanaugh, of Republican candidates getting more support after poll after poll. And now 2 weeks later, that's begun to evaporate again. And we're back to almost pre-Kavanaugh. So that's what I'm seeing, trends. And I think that's what polls are good for, trends, not for actual predictions. They're more for trends. So,
all right.
I don't play games with the polls. To me, it's about, I didn't make the poll. I can't vouch for it. I can tell you it's about people voting or not. If you don't vote, the polls are wrong. And if people who vote, who they didn't count on voting, that's when you have upsets either way. So it's about whatever side you're on, Tom, you got to vote on Election Day. I want progressives to vote. Whatever side you're on, you should vote if you care about the election, because the polls mean nothing. It's election days.
Oh, I absolutely will be voting. I vote whenever I can. I mean, I'm not on one side or the other as far as party lines. I'm more of a centrist.
Right.
I mean, to be as blunt as possible, I agree with about half the things you guys talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
That's pretty fair. I only agree about 60% of the things I talk about. So you're actually, we're about the same. But no, but Tom, it's good to have an open mind about things. And we'll see the poll. I tell people all the time, here are the polls to give you a sense. And here's historical polls to give people a sense. But they mean nothing because there's upsets every election. Because if the polls were 100% right, Hillary Clinton would be president. And she's not, obviously. So this is the world we live in. You got to get out and vote if you care.
All right.
All right, Tom.
All right. Thank you, Dean.
Nice chatting with you. All right, let's take another call. Here is Raquel in New York. How are you, Raquel?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Fine. How's New York? Are you upstate New York or New York City?
New York, the state part.
Okay. No, because not a lot of New York City people call us because New Yorkers don't drive, and radio is so much about driving. Truckers and people driving to work back and forth.
This is true.
And so that's part of it. So I was going to oh, you're a New York City person? So go ahead. What is your comment or your thought, my friend?
I'm a social work student getting my master's degree, and we talk about what you basically talk about all the time on the show. And I have a friend who's Republican, who's basically a hypocrite, and it's very confusing. He's gay, like super flamboyantly gay, and super Republican, which could happen.
Sure.
But he is against gay marriage and adoption and stuff.
He's against equality? He's against having the same rights as everybody else. That doesn't make any sense. That's worse than Candace, the young African-American woman on Fox News, who I tweeted to yesterday. Candace Owens, I tweeted to Candace Owens yesterday. She's on Fox News, young African-American, and sides up with the right-wingers on everything, on things about race and everything. So I tweeted, I said, who can I contact at Fox News? Because I'm going to be the anti-Muslim Muslim so I can make a lot of money like you. And she didn't get back to me. And I wasn't rude or anything. I made it like a question. I said, who can I contact? And she didn't respond. I don't know why. But to be against gay marriage, though, to be against marriage equality, are you sure your friend's gay? Because that is just simply equality. That's all that's about.
He is very, very.
That's weird.
Like, very.
Why would he be against? I'm so intrigued by this. Why would he be against having the same rights as everybody else?
We had a whole fight about it over the summer because we were honestly. So I have I'm part of the community, and I have a bunch of we have a group chat with all of us, and we're all pretty gay. And he brought it up, and we're all just like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah, what is wrong?
Also, one of our gay friends, is currently engaged. So.
Is he very, very religious? Is he evangelical or something?
He's not, and that's also something that I wanted to mention. That it was very confusing about isn't the Republican Party big on having all of the rules that we set up originally? Separation of church and state.
No, they don't believe in that. What are you kidding me? Rick Santorum has literally said.
Didn't they believe in what our government's rules technically are supposed to be, or am I?
No. But I've had that conversation with conservatives who will say there's nothing in the First Amendment that says separation of church and state. That was actually in a letter written by Thomas Jefferson to I think the Danbury Baptists, where he said there should be an absolute wall between church and state. That's where that came from, and some court decisions have talked about that as well. But when I've talked to evangelicals and had civil conversations with them, and I brought up the wall between church and state, they go, it's not in the Constitution. Then technically they're right. It is not. But at the same time, the First Amendment says Congress shall not establish any law. So that's where the inference, the implicit point that you should have a wall between church and state. So look, I mean, I've literally have quoted Mike Huckabee and Santorum, who have said, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but they've said out loud when they ran for president, we can't change the Bible, but we can change the Constitution to agree with the Bible. And we have to amend our laws to be in accordance with God's laws. So what they want is Christian Sharia law, and I call that shorthand. They go crazy. That's exactly. If I'm Muslim, if I was out there saying you can't change the Quran, but you can change the Constitution to agree with the Quran, that would be me advocating Islamic Sharia law. So I don't believe it should be any different than when they're doing that, because I don't want any law based on any religious text. None. Zero. It should be based on public policy considerations, what's good for the most people and helps people.
Isn't that the whole point of America, though? Like, wasn't that like the whole idea of having that mix and being free to have your own? Like, wasn't that the whole point of why people come to this country?
You mean like freedom of religion? They were fleeing religious persecution and came here? Yeah, you're right. But you're talking about facts, and this doesn't matter because they've morphed. I mean, what I've learned, Raquel, there is no way to shame a conservative over hypocrisy. When we call it their hypocrisy, it's only for us. We're doing it because they don't care, because they'll give you a whataboutism or whatever. You know, it's usually a whataboutism or some argument that makes no sense in logic or facts, and they'll tell you why they're right. And I can't have any of it. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You're wrong, but I try to be civil with people.
Right, and it's just, and it also, like, their behavior isn't there something in the Bible that says, like, we're not supposed to kill and hurt and do all these things bad to people? And then there's that in the rally that you were just talking about before, about how they were promoting violence. And I'm like, isn't that against what the Bible says? I mean, I'm Jewish, but we have the same original text.
Sure. Well, you know, you've got a great point. And, you know, they're going to say, I've had these fights on Twitter when I've shared the clips of Trump going, "You get him out of here." In the old days, down a stretcher, and they'll say, well, that was all in self-defense. No matter what they say, like today, Eric Trump was on Fox News, and they played the clip of his father beating up the reporter, and Eric goes, "That's why my dad got elected. He's not PC. He was joking." No, Eric, your dad got elected because of Vladimir Putin and bigotry and racism. That's why your dad didn't get elected because of un-PC jokes. That's meaningless. But the idea of telling a joke about physically assaulting a reporter, that a reporter it wasn't like a joke in a vacuum, and he was just saying, one of these guys should get body slammed. He was there with Greg Gianforte, who had literally body slammed a reporter, a guy who was thin. Like, Gianforte is a big guy, a thin little guy, Ben Jacobs. And Gianforte pled guilty, so he's a criminal, and paid a fine. At least he did the right thing, Gianforte, and apologized publicly for it. Trump, in the middle of the whole Khashoggi thing, is saying, this is great. There's no words for this anymore. It's not healthy, it's not safe, and it's an attack on our First Amendment. Donald Trump is attacking. He doesn't value America. Donald Trump does not share our values. That's the bottom line. And others might.
We know that. We've already assumed that he's being a puppet, so that's like irrelevant. We know he doesn't care.
He's not a good guy. He's not good. Well, my friend, I don't know what district you're in, by the way. There's a lot of competitive districts for Congress up in New York State. I've had a lot of.
Mine's blue.
Oh,
I'm not even worried.
All right. Well, then make calls for other districts near you. Help Democrats. There's a lot of districts that are close up there.
I get Vito's emails like all the time because I'm just like paying attention to everybody else elsewhere because I know, my vote's important, but I know where my county is going to vote regardless.
Right.
So I'm not worried about my vote. I'm more worried about everybody else's.
By the way, if you don't get enough emails, if you're one of those people who needs attention, give $5 to any candidate, and you will get 9 emails a day. I gave a little bit of money to Heidi Heitkamp.
I haven't even donated.
Oh, I gave a little money to Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota recently, and I literally was getting 5 emails a day to the point I had to put like a spam filter because it was literally 5 a day, and then they give your emails to other Democrats, which is fine, but then you get a million emails a day.
I honestly think that's what happened from the Bernie campaign.
That's what. No, they all share them. All right, Raquel, nice chatting with you, my friend.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, thanks. Let's take a quick break. Come back. I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. You're my guest for the next 45 minutes. There's the indictment today that came out on a woman here, a Russian citizen. I don't know if she was based in the U.S. at all at any time or not, but we can go through that a little bit later as well, because the media is giving you this sense that their exact way it's framing this indictment is that Russia, this is all after the election, for the last 2 years, was sowing political discord, which is true. But they made it seem in the narrative the media was doing that they were doing it both on the left and the right. Well, I read the indictment, the complaint. I have it here in front of me. Almost every example of what the Russians were doing, and this is after the election, almost every example were all pro-Trump. So they were still completely invested in Donald Trump. It's not over. They helped him win. They continue to help him now. And they were actually, they cite Michael Savage in the complaint, the Russians, praising him because he was defending Donald Trump. They had things, and we'll go through it later, but it's off the charts what they were doing. And the media narrative is just horrible on this. They should report literally what's in here. There are a few things that were arguably anti-Trump, that they were with progressives, but what I've seen in their examples, overwhelmingly all pro-Trump stuff that the Russians were doing. Let's take a break, come back. I'd love to hear from you right here on the Dino Badala Show. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying.